I'd like to get as much participation from the group here as possible, and they want this on tape, so if you don't mind speaking into a microphone, if you have any comments, if you come up here and pick up the microphone, we'd sure appreciate it. Okay. Ready?
Ready.
Welcome to the World Service of Narcotics Anonymous hotline meeting. My name's Danny. I'm an addict.
Hi, Danny.
Can we open this meeting with a moment of silence for the addict who still suffers? Thank you. I've asked John to read what is the Narcotics Anonymous program?
My name is John and I am an addict.
That's all.
What is the Narcotics Anonymous program? NA is a non-profit fellowship or society of men and women for whom drugs have become a major problem. We are recovering addicts who meet regularly to help each other stay clean. This is a program of complete abstinence from all drugs. There is only one requirement for membership, the honest desire to stop using. There are no musts in NA, but we suggest you keep an open mind and give yourself a break. Our program is a set of principles written so simply that we can follow them in our daily lives. The most important thing about them is that they work. There are no strings attached to NA. We are not affiliated with any other organizations. We have no leaders, no initiation fees or dues, no pledges to sign, no promises to make to anyone. We are not connected with any political, religious, or law enforcement groups and are under no surveillance at any time. Anyone may join us regardless of age, race, color, creed, religion, or lack of religion. We are not interested in what or how much you used or who your connections were, what you have done in the past, how much or how little you have, but only in what you want to do about your problem and how we can help. The newcomer is the most important person in any meeting because we can only keep what we have by giving it away. We have learned from our group experience that those who keep coming to our meetings regularly stay clean.
And I've asked Jeff to read how it works.
Hi, I'm Jeff, and I'm an addict.
Hi, Jeff.
How it works. If you want what we have to offer and are willing to make the effort to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. These are suggested only, but they are the principles that made our recovery possible. 1. We admitted we were powerless over our addiction, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. We made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. We admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7. We humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. We made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9. We made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. We continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11. We sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of those steps, we tried to carry this message to addicts and to practice these principles in all our affairs. This sounds like a big order, and we can't do it all at once. We didn't become addicted in one day, so remember, easy does it. There is one thing more than anything else that will defeat us in our recovery. This is an attitude of indifference or intolerance towards spiritual principles. Although there are no musts in NA, there are 3 things that seem indispensable. These are honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness to try. With these, we are well on our way.
Thank you. I've asked Greg to read the 12 traditions.
My name's Greg. I'm an addict.
Hi, Greg.
We keep what we have only with vigilance, and just as freedom for the individual comes from the 12 steps, so freedom for the group springs from our traditions. As long as the ties that bind us together are stronger than those that would tear us apart, all will be well. 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends on NA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. 3, the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop using. 4, each group should be autonomous, except in matters affecting other groups or NA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry the message to the addict who still suffers. 6, an NA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the NA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, or prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every NA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Narcotics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, NA as such ought never be organized, but we may create special boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, NA has no opinion on outside issues. Hence, the NA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
Thank you. I'd like to remind any members of the media of our 11th tradition. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. Absolutely no pictures may be taken. Like I said earlier, my name's Danny and I'm an addict. I was Florida Regional Public Information Chairman for 2 years. It says in here I'm supposed to share my message a little bit with you. I guess that helps to qualify me to do this workshop. I think there's probably a lot of directions this meeting can go in. Some of the areas we could cover here today, we need to kind of keep it brief, and there's a lot. I think this meeting could go on for hours and hours. I feel that the hotline is probably one of the best ways to carry the message to the addict who still suffers and effectively serve those people too. One of the ways we could cover is how to start a hotline, how to raise funds for it. Other areas we could cover is once you get one started, how do you man it, some of the problems that you're going to run into, how to do a 12-step call. There's a whole lot of areas, and I want to just open it up right now to anybody that would like to make a comment, anybody would like to ask some questions. Is there anybody here who want to ask anything?
My name is Father Dan Egan. I never want to
Hello, Father.
I don't ever want to become dependent upon Demerol or morphine again, as I almost was in the hospital. So I'm a member. When I say I'm a member, regardless of what anyone else may think. So I'm a member of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm qualifying. There's always doubt about that. I run a hotline in my room because in my area, upstate New York, there are none. There is a hotline in New York City, and I can only share 2 experiences that I think are critical. It would be a tragic mistake to start a hotline without long in advance collecting as many referral places, as many other agencies to refer phone calls to do a lot of advanced preparation and have everything on one's fingertips, or rather on the wall, tacked there. Because us addicts are very undisciplined people. We put off a lot of things and think we're going to remember everything. but a person's life is is in danger at the other end, looking for help, and they call in, and then we begin to forget all these numbers, or where we can refer these people for detoxification, or an emergency center to get into some hospital, or go to some place for one help or another. The second thing, I talked to 2 or 3 people within the last year who deliberately went out and picked up because they called this very impersonal answering service. And believe me, when you get some impersonal, insensitive person answering your calls, this Narcotics Anonymous speaking, they know more about Narcotics Anonymous than the guy who's delivering milk. And so when somebody is desperate and sick and really hurting on the other end, and you get this impersonal, and there's Narcotics Anonymous answering, give me a name, a number, and I'll have somebody call you back. Well, either they forget to give the message, or the person who doesn't have enough clean time themselves doesn't call back. Some people just go out in frustration and pick up. So I just plead that every state, every area, do everything they can to go beyond the answering service, and get help from people to man it themselves rather than turn it over to an impersonal answering service.
Okay, thank you. I have a list of some of the things that I agree with you. I think if you have all of these things at your disposal, you know, it seems to work a lot better. And we kind of made up a list down in Florida of it was kind of a trial and error list, you know, some of the problems and some of the things that came up. And I'll just read a few of them real quick. Okay, answer the phone with your first name and tell the people that you're an addict. That helps to calm them down a little bit. Find out why the person is calling. What's the problem first? Answer questions. Refer other people to other agencies. That's one of the things that we made up down there was a list of some of the different agencies in the area. You know, that it may be helpful. You know, you may get somebody that's suicidal. You may get somebody that needs detox. You know, and it's good to have some of these things. Call somebody on a 12-step call when a 12-step call is needed. Okay, you're also responsible to see that your shift is covered when you say you'll be there. Okay, try to keep personal on the phone calls. Okay, try to keep personal phone calls brief while you're doing it. If you volunteered to work the hotline, try and keep your personal phone calls pretty brief. Keep a log of all calls that you've answered. I think this is real important to do a follow-up afterwards. If you get a call from somebody, you know, they may not want to come to a meeting right at that time. But if you have their number and you have their name later on, it's a good idea to just maybe once in a while check back with them and see if they're interested. If they called once, there's a good chance they're gonna call back and want help later on. So it's a good, and there's a lot of other reasons why you'd want to keep a list of that. Contact your. I think it's real important that these be coordinated through a hotline chairman. And if you have any problems, you know, call the hotline chairman and ask them to help you work some of these problems out. Okay. Some information you may need for 12-step calls. Get the person's first name, area they are calling from, type of drugs they are using and how long, symptoms, what's happening to the person now, get their phone number, get their age, find out what sex they are, male or woman. Okay. Ask them if they've ever been to an NA meeting before. Explain that all information that they give you is confidential. and tell them that, you know, somebody's going to call them back, you know, and then go to your 12-step list and stuff like that. These are just some you know, some things that, you know, they may not seem real important, but if you start working the hotline, you start getting calls, these are some of the things that you're going to need to know. A lot of these lists that you can get from other organizations, we got our list from another hotline referral service. They provided us with a list of other community organizations. Each area is going to be a little different. They're going to have different phone numbers. So it's a good thing to have these things on hand. Does anybody else like to say anything?
My name's Greg. I'm an addict.
Hi, Greg.
Well, it sounds like heaven what you guys are talking about. You know, we are forced to use an answering service, okay? We don't have enough people that are interested in running the hotline. We only have, at the present time, 2 people that even call the answering service to get the messages from them on a regular basis. I think the answering service has a list of 4 people who they can call if there's an emergency call. That's the trouble that we've been finding, is that we can't, well, in every area of service in our particular area, we just don't have the people that are willing to give their time. I try to do, when I take the calls, I try to refer people to where if they need to go in for detox. Try to refer families to Families Anonymous. I think I get maybe half the calls that I take are from affected family members or lovers or friends.
Yeah.
I've been having a problem, you know, just how much. What I try to do is just tell them what we are, what Narcotics Anonymous is, what we do, and refer them to somebody else that can, I don't know, it seems like I can really get, sometimes I'm on the phone for a half hour with affected family members, and I don't know if that's my place or not. That's,
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess that's all I got right now.
Yeah. I think that's pretty common in most areas. Most of the areas that I've talked to that have answering service. Ours in St. Pete, Florida, we get an average. I would guess about 40% of the calls that come through our hotline are from concerned others, and yeah, it is a problem. You know, it seems like every place that I go, somebody, or not all the places, but most of the places, they have a little bit different setup. Not a whole lot different, but a little. Some areas use beepers. Some areas have a service set up where the addict calls an answering service, and then the people working the hotline get the message and call the addict back. Our particular service can patch a person directly into the addict. But the bottom line to all this, and I think the biggest problem with all the areas, at least the ones that I've talked to, is getting addicts to man the line, to answer the calls, to go out and do 12-step work. That seems to be the biggest problem. You know, every time I come to one of these meetings, that's usually the topic of discussion. And I really don't know what the solution for it is. Maybe we can... Lynn, would you like to say something? You
Sure.
got the microphone.
My name's Lynn. I'm an addict.
Okay.
I always got something to say when it was carrying a message to people who you know, in our little neighborhood in Candle Park in Atlanta, one of the guys recently out of the hospital run into a person at the grocery store that he used to do dope with, and the guy jumped in his shit about, what's your car doing parked down in front of the Highland Club? Isn't that a bunch of narcotics agents? You know? A hotline to me is said a little everything, especially when it's put out in the public on what Narcotics Anonymous is, instead of just a little logo NA, you know. When I was doing the hotline, half the calls were non-type. You know, God love them because they are so sick. People have to live with that for years and years. You know, it seems like they're sicker, or just as sick, spiritually. You know, it's the addicts that are suffering. Not to disagree with you, Brother Egan, but I feel like if we'd have waited until we had everything together, you know, a lot of us would be dead in Atlanta. We had to get something going, even in confusion, to get us off our lazy ass, you know. And that was important to me. People would, they would be all advocacies of, well, we got to wait until we get it together, you know. And others would, fanatics like myself, because I was angry, I was mad. I'd never heard of Narcotics Anonymous before, and I kept, you know, blaming, well, if I'd have heard about it, you know, if I'd have seen a hotline number. I worked so hard in Atlanta with a lot of newspapers and TV stuff where they could run little ads, you know, drug problem, Narcotics Anonymous can help. We are recovering addicts who meet regularly to help each other stay clean. And our answering service, we had a hotline in our homes at first. You know, we'd put out little numbers all in the metropolitan Atlanta area community with our telephone numbers. At least they weren't on bathroom walls, you know. We put some of them on bathroom walls, you know. And I got some weird calls sometime, I tell you. But at least it was a start. At least it was a start. And if going to an answering service, impersonal answering service is progress, sometimes I'd rather us not have progress, because I like it when somebody, you know, say at a central place answers the phone and they say, hey, you know, this is NA and I'm an addict, can I help you? A couple of weeks ago, getting on the bus to go to New Orleans with my suitcase and everything, and the dude comes up and sits down beside me, and lo and behold, it's somebody that I 12-stepped over a year ago. You know, it's the answering service's owner's grandson that just got out of prison, that's on a pre-release place. You know, they work during the daytime, they go to jail at night. And he was working for the answering service, and he was answering the NA hotline. Isn't that something? That you know, it just blew us away. And they didn't know what NA was. The little old lady that owned the business, she called and wanted to know what it was about. Really hard-headed and stubborn, you know. But old enough to realize that we must be doing something, because we were getting so many calls from so many sick people. And we're really blessed at times to have some of those people that answer the calls that make minimum wage. Well, I don't know what minimum wage is, and even at minimum wage in Atlanta, you can't live, you can't hardly survive. But that care, they're not addicts, and all they got is that little list and phone numbers of people they can call up, you know, or try to get somebody. And I've had them call me at 2 o'clock in the morning crying, saying, I can't get nobody. I've called all 5 people in, you know. Where are they? And this person's about to kill themselves, you know. It makes you concerned. It makes you concerned that people volunteer to do something and not follow that responsibility up, or call the chairperson and say, look, I can't be here at this particular time, or call the answering service and say, you know, call these people. We've had drug addicts clean that have hung up on the answering service people when they call them and say, will you help? And I'm talking about name brand people, you know, the gurus at times that you might see around here with all this, and then they don't have time. No. We grow. We got to grow through it. We continue to grow, but I'm just really glad that we do have some people at our answering service in Atlanta that do care. We don't have an office anymore. We had an office in Atlanta last year while there was one fool willing enough to do all that for free. I ain't gonna say who it is. Anyway, it perpetuated so much public information, and that answering, that phone was just so instrumental in carrying the message with so many people. Nancy Reagan was down there one time, and they had a closed NA meeting that they would not let us have anything to do with, the people who started NA in Atlanta. You know, I got 15 friggin' phone calls from the TV and radio wanting to know what this NA stuff was that Nancy Reagan was on TV about, you know, that I was, and our RSR was ostracized from, you know, and I had to simply state to them that what NA was, and that helped carry the message. And so even if people renegade our NA and what it's about through their own structure, you know, that's okay too. I get excited when we get long distance telephone calls, you know, and real excited now when we got a little book, you know, Slap Out, Alabama. Yeah, there's a meeting 20 miles from Slap Out, Alabama in our world directory. We didn't have that a few years ago, Danny, you know, and we got meetings down there now. That's great. That's progress. And if we hadn't did some of the crazy things that we did that we had to grow through, we might not have these things. I'm continually excited because there's a lot of places don't have resources and referral places to send people, especially for the indigents or borderlines that don't have nothing. And there's a real big frustration thing there. And Atlanta's got a lot of facilities, especially if you have a lot of money and good insurance, you know. But Narcotics Anonymous is not about that, but by crack, you know, a lot of us go to any lengths to try to get them help sometime. And sometimes all we can do is tell them where the local meeting is, and if they want somebody to come see them, and at times it's hard to get, especially in the black community, people to go on 12-step work. And the gay community, those are two areas in my own community that has a lack of 12-step work. I'm real excited about that because we're seeing more and more recovering blacks and gays coming in. And so the word is getting out there that something is happening. The deaf community, there's some things coming in the deaf community now. There's a person in Alcoholics Anonymous that's willing to, that's astute in the deaf language, that's willing to help carry the message in Narcotics Anonymous. And I can't even hardly say my name in English, let alone on my fingers. And to see these people coming in, we've had some that have come in that could read lips, you know. How do they call answering service, you know? How? Sometimes, you know, we don't have TDY or whatever those things are for the deaf. At least we're finally getting people in all areas that have a little knowledge, and even in their mistakes, they're going to be able to grow and grow by leaps and bounds. Because my sponsors told me over and over and over again, Lynn, you're not responsible except for carrying the message. This is a spiritual program, and you got to be careful that you don't take the responsibility of where you feel obligated to put these people in treatment and prevent them from doing all these things. And that was hard to contend with. And he says, I remember him telling me all these other things may be secondary, that you might get help for all these people someday, you know, as you grow. I want us to have an 800 hotline number. and all these people from way out, you know, seeing us in Time magazine, Narcotics Anonymous. For information, call 1-800, you know, and for a starter kit, blah, blah, blah. And that's how groups are getting started now, you know. And that, I don't know, that's exciting. That's real exciting. Especially some of the preachers that are in the South that are calling and wondering what we're about. Calling our hotline, wanting us to come out and give a little Narcotics Anonymous orientation to one of their churches, you know. It just blew me away when a little Baptist preacher asked some of us to come over and do a orientation instead of having their Sunday afternoon worship service, you know. And that was no small obstacle to overcome. And since then, some of those people have been going to Narnon ever since, you know. And that was indeed a miracle. I love you, Danny. I'm glad you're here. Tickles me because I know you're a NA fanatic too. And you got so much material to share. A lot of that stuff, Danny a couple of years ago made a whole bunch of copies of stuff that he made in Florida. And I in turn made copies of stuff and gave it to some people out in the boondocks. And so some of your stuff might come back to you, you know, in a couple of years or so. Some stuff that you wrote as far as your public information. And it's just it's not only the hotline. A lot of these people that call for help, they want free literature, you know. And doctors, as much money and stuff as they get, they want free literature to put in their doctor's offices, you know, of all things. Of all things.
Good place for it.
You know, it's a good place for it. But are we set up to, it depends on the neighborhood again. It depends on the neighborhood and how far are we willing to be responsible as trusted servants. And it starts in that meeting. If we can get people to make coffee and have that literature and pass that H&I can around and that group hat, you know, and be responsible for that money. Because God knows I keep asking all the time, well, how much H&I money did you pull in this week? And people get intimidated, especially if they've gone out and put gas in their car for it, you know, and you wonder where the hell it is. Oh, I'm sorry, Danny.
That's okay.
I get all carried away. God bless you.
I think you misunderstood what I really meant to say. I meant to say that people should not trust their memories. They ought to take from the phone books, tack on the wall, things that they need, not to create new agencies that if you wait for the perfect situation, you'll never start anything. I believe that too. We can't do everything, but the little we can do, we should do. But I'm saying that many times I call a hotline and I'll get an answer. Well, now wait a minute, it should be here. It was here yesterday. Let me see now. And you hear the guy going through the drawer and pulling everything out. I mean, have it there. I don't know whether the primary purpose of a hotline is to disseminate information about Narcotics Anonymous, or the bottom line is the sick, suffering addict out there. I'd like to believe the day will come pretty soon when we will find enough really together human beings who are more personal than an answering service, people in Naranon, people who can volunteer to pick up the phone and answer humanly instead of professionally. A good wife, a good mother, a girlfriend, or somebody who knows how to calm somebody down and say, hey, say the serenity prayer with me. Many times when I'm on the phone, I don't come off just because I'm priest, but I say, wait a minute, calm down, let's say the serenity prayer together. Let's do something to calm you down, to show that you're still in control of the situation. You know what I mean? Now, an answering service isn't going to say that. They got 10 other calls to say. So I really believe if we could tap Naranon, or tap concerned parents who are not even into Naranon yet, we could man a hotline.
Thank you. I we don't have too much more time, and I just wanted to touch on a few things. I don't think that the problem I wanted to talk about a little bit, real briefly, was getting people to answer the phones and stuff like that. I don't know if there's any way that you can make somebody do these things, and our whole program is set up as a program of attraction rather than promotion. The way that I got interested in doing NA was going out and seeing what NA was all about, and coming to these conventions. If you have some people in your area, in your small area, bring the people to these conventions. It's the best motivator I've seen so far, to get people active. Have a hotline committee meeting or something like that, and let people see what you're doing rather than trying to tell them what needs to be done. When people started telling me I had to do things, I didn't want to hear it, but when I started seeing what was happening, I wanted to be a part of it. These conventions do it. They're the things that get the adrenaline flowing. I've seen areas grow, triple in size from conventions, one addict helping another, There's just something in the air here that makes people want to get out and carry the message. We keep what we have by giving it away, and this is one of the best ways to give it away, is work the hotline. Once you get a hotline, well, let me just touch on this real briefly, is if you're wondering, some of the questions that come up is how do you get a hotline service together, how do you raise the funds? And this is part of the growth of NA itself. They all seem to work hand in hand as you start putting on fundraising events, and they're not such a big thing to do. 2 or 3 members of NA can go out and organize a dance. You get a dance together, you get people at the dance, and people there see something going on. They want to get active in it. That's how you raise the funds. Once you get the funds together, it's important that you get the number out. Each area is different. Some areas will list a phone number for free. Other areas want you to list it as a business phone. This committee traditionally has been part of public information. Personally, I feel like it's better off being a separate committee, working hand in hand with public information. Some of the things that we've done and some of the things that I've heard is we printed up little cards like this. And now these are real easy to carry around in your wallet or something like that. It just says drugs got you bugged. It's kind of a catchy little card. And just if you have one of these meetings, it's no problem. One of the best things to do is if you can get everybody in your group to carry 3 or 4 cards around with you, and every time they go someplace, think about it. Where were you when you were using drugs? Where are some of the places that you went? And just in everyday driving around town, you come to grocery stores and a lot of different places that have bulletin boards, and it's nothing to just ask the people there if you can stick a little card in the window. Some areas I've seen have got little decals, and they go around sticking these decals on phone booths and every place else, and that seems to be really effective. Working with public information, there's a lot of free media time that's available. Television, radio, and all these other places are required by law to provide a certain amount of public service time. They're not required by law to provide that time to Narcotics Anonymous, and that's where the hotline and the Public Information Committee, that's their job, to help them to realize that we are a worthwhile organization, and we're out there helping addicts. We've proven ourselves. We don't have to go out and we don't have to lie or tell them anything else. NA has proven itself. We've been around the longest and we've been the most effective, and that's pretty obvious here today, that we are a worthwhile organization. Carry meeting lists around with you. If your meeting lists have the hotline number on them, if everybody carried, 2 or 3 meeting lists around with them every time that they go someplace, it's a good way to get the message out. Somebody says, well, what is NA? For me to sit here and tell you what NA is, it wouldn't be near as effective as if I took you to a meeting, if I took you and showed you. One of our slogans says, I can't, but we can, you know. I can't save anybody out there, but we as a group, Narcotics Anonymous as a fellowship, is what carries the message of recovery, you know. And you give them a meeting list and you let them see, you know. I don't know how many times throughout the day I have the opportunity to carry the message, and I overlook it, you know. And when I think about it as me keeping what I have by carrying that message, you know, I tend to do it a lot more. You know, if I see somebody, you know, I go by schools every day. I go to the supermarket every day. I go to the little store every day. And most all of these places have bulletin boards, and they're the perfect places to put up signs. You'd probably really be surprised to see how many people would cooperate with you. I don't know how many times I've walked into a little small market and asked if I could put a sign in the window, and the guy behind the counter tells me that either he's got a brother or an uncle or an aunt that's got a drug or an alcohol problem. Everybody is affected by this disease, you know, and everybody wants to know a little bit about how do you recover from it, you know, and we have the answers, you know, but the answers aren't very good unless we can get them out to the addicts who still suffer. So it's real important. These hotline services are extremely important, you know. NA grows this way, you know. And our fellowship starts growing too. And I don't, you know, when I first came in the fellowship and I heard these people talking about working the answering service and doing all these things, this stuff just kind of overwhelmed me, and it devastated me, you know. And I said, I can't do that. I don't have anything to offer, you know. But when I started going to these meetings and I said, well, I'll try, you know, I'll do the best I can today, you know. And that's all I've done since I've been in the program, is just done the best I could, you know, and I'm still here. You know, service work has been an extremely large part of my recovery. You know, it's enabled me to take me in shorter dosages, you know, and that goes along with that slogan, an addict alone is in bad company, you know. So, you know, we can all help. You know, a lot of, I don't think a lot of us really realize the work that we could be doing in just everyday life, and we don't do it, you know. Would you like to say something?
I'm an addict. My name is Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
A lot of good things have been said. I was thinking, you know, being from one of the smaller areas, and I've seen different ways that the hotlines have operated. And ideally speaking, to have 24-hour hotline manned by addicts that are responsible and will be there is ideal. I don't know of any place where it really works well like that yet. But I've seen it used answering machines, which I don't care for, but it's better than nothing. You know, I think if that's all you got, and you use it as a temporary till you can do better, you know, something's better than nothing. I think it was Lynn brought it up real good, you know, to do something, and then you can improve on your mistakes, just like we do in our recovery, you know. As long as we're doing something, we're going in the right direction. We're pretty, you know, like, as far as an impersonal answering service, you know, the town we're from is not all that big, but there's more than one answering service. And as long as we pay our bill, we have a right to demand certain services from those people. And if there's problems with our hotline, you know, I've called and it's rang 10 times before somebody answered, and I said, you know, I know this doesn't usually happen, but a lot of people would hang up. You know, I got to be assertive enough to protect those people that might be calling in, and assume that the way they answer the phone with me checking in is the way that they answer the phone. And, you know, if we get feedback from people, they were saying one of the NA counselors will call you. That, you know, it's not their fault. They just needed to be educated as to what NA is about. And that's where our job comes in, you know. They do care. The people that we deal with, we're fortunate because they answer the lines for some doctors and a mental health service, and so they're trained in crisis calls anyway. And we've used them for 4 years. It's worked out pretty good. When I make a call or answer a call, usually I just say, you know, I'm Jeff. I'm from Narcotics Anonymous. How can I help you? Because that's, you know, that's what our fellowship's about, is how can we help? And oftentimes a person will just start pouring out what they need to unload, and then we can go from there. Sometimes they'll say, well, I just kind of wanted to find out about it, and I'll ask, is it for you? You know, do you think you have a problem with drugs? And if they say yes, then I'll start telling them about me and not ask too many more questions until I've shared something about myself. And that seems to work, but, you know, I just kind of ad-lib it as I go. I think a real important thing is to make sure that those calls are answered. You know, we've had problems with, you know, sometimes it going a couple of days without a message being picked up, and, you know, I think that that laissez-faire attitude doesn't help the person that's calling in. Things are a lot better now than they were 2 years ago, you know, when nobody called the hotline for 4 months to pick up messages, and everybody thought the other guy was doing it. And that's kind of when I got involved, and then it's been working better ever since, because Greg and I keep close touch with each other. We know who calls in the daytime and who calls at night, and also we can be patched, and, you know, if anybody needs to talk to somebody right now, they have a list of numbers, you know, I think it's, like you said, 4 or 5 people, but they can get a hold of somebody at any time of day. But, you know, I feel that, too, that if that person really wants it, you know, if they're not just hurting for the minute but really want recovery, you can't say the wrong thing as long as you're talking about it, you know, that, you know, as long as they're getting a live person on the other end, they don't need to know all the answers. Because like you were saying, you know, that meeting's going to give them the answers. And, you know, just having somebody to be there to pick up the phone and say Narcotics Anonymous, you know, to assure them that their number isn't going to be given to the police department, it's going to be given to an addict that's living clean. You know, that's a big plus right there. You know, we're going to lose some anyway, but we try to do what we can for those we can, and that's what we do.
Okay, thank you. We have to end this meeting now. Just one thing real quick is I think it's real important that if you do have an answering service, that they have an up-to-date meeting list, an up-to-date list of the events that are going on in your area. So if a call does come in and there's no addicts to take the call, at least they do have the information. Can we close this meeting with the Serenity Prayer and the Lord's Prayer?
God, bring me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Keep coming back, it works if you work it.